All right, welcome back. It's time for press review. Let me read for you something that is quite interesting. First of all, the headline says, and I quote, "Why women drink like their dads." But let me just read for you something small. Having been in Kenya for 3 months, I sought to understand the different ways in which gender plays out in public/private spaces in the country. So I talked to the Uber, taxi, and little cab drivers on my way to and from work at Kasarani, and whenever I made my own way to town, I wanted their take on gender and how they perceived gender dynamics in their different workplaces, at home, and in their communities. During such discussion, a statement from one of the drivers made an impression on me. He said, and I quote, "Our women now drink like our fathers and do not cook like our mothers." Whew. That's on the Daily Nation, the Saturday Daily Nation. We'll come to that in just a few moments. Let's first of all dive into the Saturday Standard. And we are running with the article of why cereal board paid my children 600 million Kenyan shillings. Here is a peek into this. And this is why it's very interesting, all right? There you go. Why cereals board paid my child 600 million Kenyan shillings. Before we went on a quick commercial break, you will notice that I read one of the inside articles in regards to the NYS, that one specific person, businesswoman Monica, refused about 50 million Kenyan shillings when it appeared in her bank account back in December 20th, 2016. All right. So it's not all hope lost in this NYS scandal. There are a few people who have a proper conscience. So this is what we are running with this morning on the Saturday Standard. Let me just... that's on page 8. But before we also jump straight into that, let me just give you an overview of why today's paper is a must-get. So untouchables who took the NYS billions. We've got an amazing investigative piece that shows that some of the firms that pocketed the most NYS services have connections to influential individuals in the government. We are calling it faceless forces. That's the investigative piece that our Saturday Standard has gone with this morning. And of course, the youth for PS denies, Lillian Bogo that is, denies that NYS lost 9 billion Kenyan shillings. So let's just dive straight into this and find out more about it. Before we can come to our main article, page 3. This is what is being highlighted on page 3. Teachers, and this is quite a sad story, teachers smash class 1 pupils' genitals. This is a horrific story. In the Nyahururu County Referral Hospital, medic staff attend to a class 1 pupil reportedly injured by teachers of Kamkuji Primary School in Nyahururu County yesterday, and the boy sustained injuries on his private parts. What does corporal punishment in Kenya have to say about this? Well, 3 teachers at the Kamkuji Primary School in Nyahururu beat up the boy after he was found playing in class. It's never that serious, no. And a 7-year-old boy sustained death, an arm and back injury after his father, a KDF officer, beat him up at their home in a village within Nyahururu town. The class 2 people, only at class 2 people, sustained a fracture on his head and was admitted to hospital. That's a human interest story that I know has probably grabbed your attention. It's on page 3. I'll let you soak into that later on, so grab your paper this morning. And of course, it's what we are running with this morning. We have spread it on both page 4 and page 5. The faceless untouchables who took away the NYS billions. Like I told you, we have a great investigative piece that dives straight into this. A few numbers that are important to you. 6 billion Kenyan shillings is the amount that the NYS received from Treasury every single quarter. Keeping in mind that as a country, we're just about to head into reading the financial budget for ending June 2019, that will probably be read this coming month by Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich. 21.6 billion Kenyan shillings is the amount service spent in this last financial year. 19 billion Kenyan shillings is the amount that had been spent alone in May this year. Quite a few figures, backbiting numbers, big ones in their billions, just to paint for you an image of that all. And there's that important story that I was telling you about the fashion designer who refused, or who received and returned 15 million Kenyan shillings in the NYS scandal. We have an entire shameless payment in regards to that, and how it was also spending between 1.7 to 2 billion Kenyan shillings per year on fuel sources for third parties, more than 20% the market rate, when it could have been on the same cheaply from the state-owned national oil. This is quite interesting. Because then again, we have Lillian Mbolo, who has stepped down as the PS for investigations to happen, saying, despite all this and the audit that is being conducted, that 9 billion was not stolen. How the 9 billion walked away from the NYS is yet to be answered, or even from the first NYS scandal. So page 4, page 5, grab your copy with that. We are running a very great investigative piece. And it continues on page 6 of that. And of course, we've seen politicians in Kenya, such as Gideon Moi, the Baringo senator, telling President Uhuru Kenyatta, it's time he cracked the whip. And the reason why we're here in this beautiful city of Eldoret is the Safaricom Towers concert. We'll be having great people performing on later on in the day. But now let's jump over to page 8. One of the biggest graft scandals that we chose to highlight this week, with the National Cereal and Produce Board being put on the limelight here. The scam of 3 billion fraudulent payments that have been flagged in an audit by the Agriculture Ministry. Now, in total, the National Cereals and Produce Board reported that it had received maize worth 8.7 billion during the suspected period, of which 5.2 billion has been paid out. In a general overview here, we have Kenyan farmers who have had to pay, or rather sell their produce to the National Cereals Board, Cereals and Produce Board, at crazy amounts. And these were only the top politicians and businessmen, the cartels within the business, whereas you can have about 4 other farmers here in Kenya who have had to shelve their produce. Then as a nation, we decide to go to Uganda because of lack of maize to buy from them. That's just an overview of the scandal that was rotting within the National Cereals and Produce Board. And again, page 8 is running with that article. More details into that. Have you ever been bitten by a snake? It's quite interesting. And the reason I ask you that is that snake slithers their way to global health talks. And we have a beautiful page on page 12, which is highlighting this specific article. Assembly resolved to tackle an estimated 2.7 million snake poison every year. Let me read for you just a small snippet of it. Snake bite, normally a low priority health issue, this week received top treatment in the World Health Assembly in Geneva. For the first time, the Assembly, the top decision-making body of the World Health Organization, recognized that snake bites as a health issue of global concern. Why is it a health issue? Listen to this. Snake venom can cause death in about 15 minutes or half an hour. 100 people have their limbs amputated after a snake bite. 100 people. 300 to 500 Kenyans are admitted with snake bites monthly. 300 to 500 people, not yearly, monthly, due to snake bites. And then we have about 15 people, again, who lose their lives daily to snake bites as well. 100,000 survivors from South Africa are permanently disabled by snake bites annually. This is something within the health sector that we probably, not only as a nation, but as the world population, never really pay much attention to. But now the World Health Organization is saying, listen, it's time that we recognize that snake bites is quite it's a big health concern. It's a big story. And that's why I was asking you, have you ever come across someone or you yourself who has been bitten by a snake? And that article is on page 12 of the Standard this morning. Snake slithers their way to global health talks. Quite interesting. All right, and then on page 14 of the Standard this morning is a great, should I say, quite an interesting pictorial there of the NYS, the NCPP, and the Youth Fund, the top 3 bodies that have been just this week alone on the front page when it comes to graft theft. And it's a hilarious monkey, 3 monkeys rather, see no evil, they hear no evil, and speak no evil. Let me just show it to you so you can have an idea of that. The picture that just paints where we are as a nation with the latest graft scandals. And this is on page 14. So you've seen that hear nothing, say nothing, and speak nothing. Where there you have it with the NYS, the NCPP, and the youth scandal. All right. Let's head over. Now, before we can cross over from the Standard, you need inside the Standard this morning, we normally have the Eve newspaper magazine, but there's one specific part that really caught my attention that I feel is very important for you in terms of grabbing your paper this morning, and it's just before the Eve, all right? The Smart Harvest, our inside newspaper, which goes to champion technology and more so business, especially now that this morning we're talking about youth empowerment. Digital farming. We explore how farmers can use digital tools for proper yields, lucrative markets, run dairy units, and plus more. So that's on page 22 of the Smart Harvest. If you're someone who is keen within the agriculture sector, I dare you to grab your copy of the Standard this morning. How can technology be fused with agribusiness? How can young people tap into this? It's one of Mr. Kenyatta's big four agendas, despite the fact it's also one of the key things that has been caught under graft. So grab your copy of the Saturday Standard, especially if you want to get the copy of the Harvest, the Smart Harvest. I dare you to get it, all right? There are other key stories there, but we'll not get into it because I don't want to overfeed you with it. But now, the Saturday Nation is running with a different story, one that has caught the attention of young people, especially on social media, after one student, alarm over the death of a varsity student. When parents send their children to university, I quote, "Their hope is that they will one day graduate and be proud of their families. Some live to see their dreams come true, but in this recent past, the months of students being killed by lovers or police or in mysterious circumstances appear to be rising with the death of Dennis Gishangi in Mombasa, the most recent shock. Can those deaths be avoided?" So Dennis' picture went viral more so on Twitter, amongst others, in regards of young people who have gone missing. For Dennis, he's had to end on a bad note, all right? So I'll let you grab a copy of the Daily Nation. Because that's the one that they're running with this morning. And remember the one that I began with, that taxi drivers had said that now ladies drink just like their fathers but can cook like their fathers. That story is right there. So when we come back from this quick commercial break that we're just about to take here on Weekend Express, like I promised you, it's another juicy conversation with young men and women right here in Western Gishu County who are doing extraordinary work. You get to hear from them, and I hope that you'll be inspired. So we're taking a quick break here on Weekend Express, and we'll be right back with them, and we'll get to talk to them, so stay with us.